Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Dragon Ball Nation. Now today I have a special video and I am joined by Qaamans, and it's going to be a discussion on should Dragon Ball games be reviewed by Dragon Ball fans. And I thought this was an interesting discussion as it not only tackles the whole Dragon Ball aspect of it, but you can also go delve deeper into video game culture to kind of broaden out my discussion topics, I suppose, in a way, while still retaining the Dragon Ball whole vibe of them, I suppose. So this is a very interesting topic. Qaamans, what do you think exactly? What do you have to say about this?
Well, to be honest with you, I kind of see both sides, and personally I think they should be reviewed by both sides, but I can see your argument in the sense that when we look at Dragon Ball games, a lot of times a person who really doesn't know much about the actual Dragon Ball series can kind of be limited in what they say about the game because they don't have the experience of playing other Dragon Ball games or understanding the characters themselves and the type of character techniques to really give a more in-depth analysis. For example, if let's say, the game developer screwed up, and I'm just saying something completely hypothetical, Josh, and let's say they had Piccolo using a Kamehameha, right? And the game developer who was actually reviewing it doesn't even mention that, right? A person like me and you would be able to identify that the game screwed up by giving Piccolo a Kamehameha because we have a more in-depth knowledge of the show to critique it in certain areas that can be critiqued when it pertains to Dragon Ball games. And I think that Dragon Ball games are so different from a lot of other fighters that sometimes I do feel like having a good Dragon Ball fan should be able to do it, but at the same time, I think a general video gamer is also good because it gives you a general sense of, is this game fun or not? And sometimes if the Dragon Ball game has a good story mode, it's better to be reviewed by the actual, a fan as opposed to somebody who's on the outside because they wouldn't really understand the story as a whole, and it really breaks down whether or not the story is important, because like Budokai Tenkaichi 3 had a terrible story. They didn't even really explain it as much as Budokai Tenkaichi 2 did, but Budokai Tenkaichi 3 is much better received than 2, so that's just basically just my initial thoughts in a nutshell.
Well, for me, I mean, I look at it in a bunch of ways. Obviously, not every review site does a whole, core review and a second opinion review where they give some other critic's opinion on these things, and you have to look at it at both sides, like you said. You have to look at is the fact that they're selling these games to fans of the series, but at the same time, they are trying to make it approachable enough that people that don't really know the series that much can approach these games. That's why, games like Tenkaichi, even though I do enjoy those games, I feel like if you look at those as a fighting game, I don't think they're all that incredible. Fighting games are, do we review these as fighting games or as anime games, and what kind of critics do we put up to review those? Because, look at it this way. Do you put a RPG critic, someone who plays a lot of RPG games and not a lot of shooters, do you have him review the new Call of Duty? Not really something you do. Has it happened? Sure, probably has. But the thing is that they don't pick and choose critics all the time to review these types of things. And it's interesting because these games need to be reviewed for the fans of those genres, but at the same time, the reviews should be fair for people that aren't necessarily into those type of genres. They want to have a good gauge at how good those games are to someone who would have a similar opinion as they would, I suppose. So I think that's interesting. So do we really need these Dragon Ball games to be reviewed by Dragon Ball fans? I think Dragon Ball fans in general are going to pick up a lot of these games, or at least play them at some point, no matter what. That's just my mentality of it. I don't see a whole lot of critics reviewing games like Xenoverse and, the Tenkaichi games being blatantly called out as Dragon Ball fans, or, mention that they are big fans of the series. It's not something that's really shown a lot in video game journalism and such things like that. It's more of these guys that review games for a living. That's what they do. They review these games for a living. Maybe they've seen Dragon Ball, so they go and give their opinion as it being a intellectual property. and they look at this and critique it as a game, compared to games within a similar genre, like fighting games and things like that. And I think that's what makes this interesting, because Dragon Ball Z games are not at all like normal fighting games. Anime games in general are not at all like normal fighting games, and they appeal to a certain demographic. And does that mean that they need to be reviewed by a certain type of person? That's the question that I'm going to leave to you guys in the comments, because for me personally, it can go both ways. I think that, I'd like to see both sides of the coin here, really, for reviewers. Obviously, not all review sites do these reviews where they let two people review the same game. They don't really do that very often. So I want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Qaaman, do you have anything to add to this from what I said?
Well, I just wanted to use a little quick example that I think could really illustrate it for our audience even better. If you look at Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1, like the original Budokai 1, which I'm debating whether that's my favorite Dragon Ball game of all time alongside with Xenoverse, because Xenoverse has definitely shot up my list. And the original Dragon Ball Z Budokai game, in my opinion, probably has the best story mode portrayal of any Dragon Ball game outside of probably Burst Limit. I think it's a toss-up between the original Budokai and the original Burst Limit. And if a person doesn't have a very strong knowledge of the Dragon Ball series, or at least a decent knowledge, they probably wouldn't be able to identify how good those games are in portraying the story, as opposed to others like Budokai 2 and Budokai 3. They didn't have anywhere near the amount of storytelling that the original Budokai 1 did, and I think that you have to put that in consideration when you're factoring in, how well something can portray in terms of knowledge. And I think this goes for other things too, not just Dragon Ball. If you play Yu Yu Hakusho game, if you play a Naruto game, if you play a game that's not based strictly on a video game history, like Josh, if we were talking about Mortal Kombat or Tekken, it would be completely different, right? But if we're talking about a story that kind of stems from like an alternative anime or anything outside of that sorts, I think that's when you really, really have to take in consideration additional fans.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, like I said, after what Qaaman said, to close the video out, I'd like to leave it for you guys in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. I'd actually like to see some very in-depth comments to see what you guys think, because this goes beyond just Dragon Ball. It goes into video game culture, video game journalism. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Qaaman, take us out of here.
So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed our video for today. We brought up some points, and I'd really like to see your thoughts in the comment section below, even though it's not my channel. But most importantly, over everything else, please remember to what, Josh? What must they remember?
Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe.
And remember, as I always say, to
have a great day, guys.